Turn it on.
We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Ed, what are you doing back there? Hanging out. Are you going to present? Oh, you can help. You don't have to.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We're going to start off. Up here is our agenda. There's a lot of stuff up here. I did want to say that you'll see a slide up here in a minute about a garage sale that the church is having, and they've asked us if we could get out of here no later than 8:30 tonight, which we hope to be wrapped up before then. And also, if there's anyone here that could stick around a few minutes to help out, I think move some tables or chairs or something, if we could stick around and do that, you know, for the donation of the church and for the good of the church, we'd appreciate that. So I'm going to start off with a note from Pastor John because he cannot be here until later. So he says, "Greetings to everyone from the people of John Calvin Presbyterian Church. It is our hope and prayer that everyone enjoyed a great Easter and had a chance not only to worship, but to spend time with family during this holiest of seasons in the church. But now that Easter is past, we, just like those first followers of Jesus, must press on to do the work that is before us. In our case, it is to continue to put pressure on all decision makers with respect to the environmental issues at the nearby landfill. Much has been accomplished, but much more needs to be done. So let us ask for God's help and strength as we work together to make the earth of which God made us caretakers a better place today and tomorrow. Let us pray. Holy God, the creator and sustainer of all of the earth, forgive our missteps in caring for this planet. Forgive those whose decisions have brought more harm than good to this earth. Empower us with your strength to move forward in love to right that which was done wrong, and direct those to clean up that which has become unclean. May you bless our gathering tonight with all wisdom and knowledge. In the name of the risen one we pray, amen." So there's the garage sale notice. It's this Saturday, April 23rd from 8 to 1. You're welcome to come out, and they would probably appreciate that. And again, like I said, if anyone could stick around just a few minutes after the meeting to help out, that'd be great. Do we have anyone that's here for the first time tonight? Welcome. Well, if you're not familiar, this is our Facebook page, West Lake Landfill. If you haven't joined, you might want to join that page and keep up-to-date information, get up-to-date information on our West Lake Landfill Facebook page. We also have a Facebook page. It's STL Glowing Strong Memorial, where you can post about your illnesses or vent or share your stories about what it's like to grow up or live in St. Louis here around the landfill. We also have the Just Moms STL Facebook page, and we would really appreciate if you all could go and like that page on Facebook. This is our website. You can get to it at stlradwastelegacy.com, or you can also get to it by going to justmomsstl.org or .com. Our next Westlake community meeting is going to be May 19th, right here, 6:30. And here is the odor log. I know the odors have been bad lately. Again, we remind you to please go in and fill out the odor log. You can always find it pinned at the top of our West Lake Landfill Facebook page or on our website. And if you're not on the computer, you can always call And the number is up here, 314-416-2960. If it's after hours, please leave a detailed message. We have some events coming up. The Franciscan Sisters of Mary Prayer Vigil. The next one is April 27th, and then there's going to be the 2 in May. The dates are up there. There's a Friends of Kids with Cancer walk on this Saturday, April 23rd, if anyone's interested. We have an Earth Day Festival, and I believe that MCE will be out there. That's Sunday, April 24th at the Muni Grounds at Forest Park from 10 to 6. There's also another viewing of the first Secret City coming up at Share Emmett on Tuesday, April 26th. That's this coming Tuesday at 7. And then don't forget that St. Anne is starting up their food truck events. The first one is next Thursday, April 28th. They run from 5 to 8:30. They are at St. Anne Park. And the moms have been allowed in the past to put up our booth and pass out flyers, and so we really appreciate that by the City of St. Anne letting us do that. I think this is you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
There we go. Sure. My name's Ed Smith. I work at the Missouri Coalition for the Environment. If you've been to a meeting before, you've probably seen me. Just giving a quick update about what's going on with different governments at different levels and what they're doing to address the health concerns around the smoldering landfill and in North St. Louis County. The St. Louis County Department of Health started a survey, went out into the field, went and collected responses from people within a 2-mile radius of the West Lake Landfill. They didn't go to every door, but they were shooting for 200. I think they got somewhere right around there. And then they also surveyed a control population elsewhere in St. Louis County to be able to compare against. Those results should be available this summer. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, we've for a long time posed the question to them, the folks that live around the landfill, some of which work around the landfill as well. They're subjected to the odors around the clock, and they're teaming up with the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. They're working on a public health report for non-radioactive health issues. I don't know when that's going to be released, and we are going to try and make sure that the not only physical health is addressed in the report, but the mental health of the folks living around the landfill, because I've heard countless stories of just, not being able to breathe at night with the windows open. We've heard from the ATSDR before that mental health is important as well, so we hope that they'll address that. And then the St. Louis County Health Department's working with the ATSDR on a public health assessment to determine if the rates of cancer found by the state of Missouri in North St. Louis County that are higher than normal are related to exposure to radioactivity in Coldwater Creek. And the information, if you think that you were impacted, if your health has currently been impacted by your environment where you grew up in North St. Louis County, contact Coldwater Creek at cdc.gov, and you can call that number 1-800-CDC-INFO. They're collecting information from folks. They've had several public meetings, so if you want to, it's better to just make sure you get your information on the record if you want. Also, if you filled out the community survey, you still need to reach out to these folks because they have to reproduce the survey data submitted to the citizens group, Coldwater Creek, Just the Facts, in order to come up with the health statistics they need. They can't just bank on the community group's data. They have to collect it themselves. So that's all I have, I think. Thank you.
Before we go any further at this time, I would like to recognize any elected officials that we have with us tonight or the representatives of the elected officials.
Randy
Randy Hang, Councilman Bridgeton, Ward 3. Thank you.
Jerry Grimmer, City of Bridgeton, Ward 2, Councilman.
I'll be Ferdinand Villato's office.
John Bosch, with Senator Maria Shkomadal's office.
Anyone else? Okay. Let's see, if all of you remember, we did a human rights tribunal back in December. We had 18 witnesses that testified to a jury composed of leading civic and religious figures led by Lois Gibbs for the Center for Health and Environmental Justice. We are going to be delivering that on May 3rd in New York at the United Nations office. So at this time, we don't have an exact time, but we will be in New York to deliver those on May 3rd, Dawn and I. Some of you probably heard that Dawn and I and Ed Smith with the Missouri Coalition for the Environment went kind of a last-minute meeting to Washington, D.C. on March 30th. And we had a meeting set up with CEQ, which is the Council on Environmental Quality, coordinates federal environmental efforts and works closely with agencies and other White House offices in the development of environmental policies and initiatives. We sat down with them and they were all very receptive. We had a really good meeting. One of the representatives for the Attorney General was there. Lois Gibbs was also in that meeting. They took a lot of notes and we talked about the legislation, we talked about relocation. So they are fully aware of what is going on here with the landfill. We also had the Teamsters two representatives with the Teamsters there with us too. On the way to the airport, we made one last attempt to reach out to Gina McCarthy, and we were getting ready to get on the airplane, and her office called back and said that they thought that maybe they could get us in to have a meeting with her. When we landed, we found out that we were approved by security, and we were given a meeting to happen the next day at noon with the administrator. It was only just Dawn and I. Ed Smith wasn't allowed in, nor was Lois Gibbs. So Dawn and I went in and sat down and had a face-to-face meeting with her, and she had a staff person in there taking notes. The purpose of our meeting with her was to discuss relocation. We were only there to talk about relocation and talk about the people, not the dirt. We relayed all of your concerns and your stories, and that we feared for our lives here and were scared. She took notes as well, and we just kept reiterating that we needed relocation, and the only other thing that we really talked about was testing the North Quarry all the way up to the South Quarry where the fire was. So we left her with looking into relocation, and we gave her 2 weeks, and it's actually been 3 weeks yesterday, I think, but we sent out a follow-up letter asking for her to have a conference call with us next week. So if we do not hear back from her within the next week, then it'll be all hands on deck again, making calls to get her conference call. Because she did say in the meeting that she wanted to keep the dialogue open with the moms. So we need to hold her to that. Congressman Pallone, how many of you are still making phone calls to Pallone's office? How many of you are getting different stories? Well, so are we. Still getting different stories. Congressman Pallone, I guess, is still holding up the bill. We have asked for a hearing as of, was it 2 weeks ago, last week? Early last week? We went ahead and asked for them to start the process for a hearing. We have heard that Pallone is not going to budge. He's not going to let this bill go under suspension until there's some kind of write-up on the bill. And right now, because it passed in the Senate with no hearing, there is no factual write-up on the bill. So if we can get a hearing of some sort and get this bill put in there, we stand a better chance, I guess, to get this moving forward. We can't sit on this any longer.
What does the bill do?
The bill, HR 4100, would transfer the authority of West Lake Landfill out of the hands of the Environmental Protection Agency over to the hands of the Army Corps of Engineers FUES rep. Thanks, Zach. What?
Why is he stopping it?
Well, it depends on the day.
Because his wife works for the EPA.
Or words.
Maybe.
We're told she no longer works for the EPA.
Probably a consultant.
He, like I said, he wants it to go through process where there is a write-up or some factual write-up on the bill, which has not happened because in the Senate they passed it unanimously without a hearing. So right now there is nothing to indicate that Westlake even exists, I guess.
The other thing is hearing means that people are going to be called to testify, means that Republic gets to come and testify, means that EPA gets to come and testify, and unfortunately, that's all the way in DC, so if any of you or us want to come and testify, I don't know that we're going to get that chance. They get to decide who comes citizen-wise, and it's a lot of money to go to DC and back. You know?
Congressman Clay and Congressman Wagner will get the choice to decide who will testify, and then they'll take that back and they'll decide if that's okay. So,
Yeah.
What do you mean that if they don't know Westlake exists? I didn't understand that statement.
So, when you have a hearing on a bill, everybody gets to read the bill and ask questions, and they get to call the agencies in. That didn't happen in the Senate. In the Senate, it passed on suspension. Everybody agreed, just looked at the bill and said, yeah, this makes sense, this is a serious situation, let it through. So those people know what's going on at Westlake, but there's no written documentation of this bill was discussed, so-and-so asked this question, so-and-so made this comment. That doesn't exist.
okay. So we talked about the odor and that we need to report those to DNR. One thing that we're seeing a lot on the page is people are really complaining about having a hard time breathing or gagging or what do I do or whatever. So you can call the St. Louis County Health Department. The phone number is up here. We will have it on our website and on our Facebook pages pinned at the top. There's St. Louis County Health and there's St. Charles County Health Department up there. I would suggest that if you are having those issues, to give them a call and let them know how serious they are.
People are taking pictures, hang on.
Oh, am I next?
Oh, and it's Dawn's turn.
Yep, it's my turn. Can I borrow the lav mic? Hello. Okay, so many of you probably heard in the news lots of different stories about EPA finding more radioactive waste closer to the fire. Has everybody heard that? And that the latest round of testing has shown that it's closer. So we want to show you some of the old historical photos that we have. Many of these are from EPA documents. A lot of them, thank you to Debbie Disler in the back, has put together this presentation. Debbie, can we dim the lights?
Sure.
Do you know how to do that?
Oh,
Debbie
I
knows how
don't
to do
know.
everything, so I'm sure she can, but
I don't know, that's very technical.
is this going to mess up live stream? Do you mind? Is it all right? Or? Okay, I don't want to mess anyone up, but I think it'll be easier for you to see because some of these pictures, she did a really cool overlay so you guys can see what was there historically and what's there now. I think it's really important for you to understand what this landfill started out looking like in 1968. And I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to try, please remind me to switch sides if you guys on this side need to see it, okay? Is that okay, you guys, you think? All right. Oh, it's even better. Okay, don't fall asleep. I know we're in church, but you know. So this is St. Charles Rock Road right here, okay? This is Taussig. This is 1968. You can see the South Quarry area down here that's now has a fire, and then you can see the entire North Quarry, which is this area, and then you can see the area up here where the radioactive waste was dumped. Remember, this is 1968, so this is before the radioactive waste was dumped. The radioactive, yeah, sorry, this is 1968. This is the North Quarry,
No, that's West Lake.
and then right here in this area over here is West Lake Landfill, okay? And you have the South Quarry right here where the fire is occurring. This is before the radioactive waste was dumped. What I want to show you, you guys, look at how it's dug out here. You can see the pond here that they're digging, some very low-lying areas. Next. Okay, so this is a sideways view. The red area here is the fire, okay? Up here, this area right here, the purple area, this is where when Kieran and I first started this 3 years ago, and when Ed Smith first started, this is where the EPA swore to us was the extent of the radioactive waste. You can see that there was an area they expanded to, so they did more testing, trying to find a location for the barrier. See how they did more testing? So they did a step out, did more testing, and they found it. And now this, see this little green area here that I'm tracing? This is the latest step out area. This is the latest round. So you have approximately from here to about here, in this area right here, that has not been tested. And if you come over here, this whole area right here has not been tested. And if any of you attended this past Monday's meeting with EPA, the facilitators meeting, they indicated that they would not be testing that area. They're refusing to test. We have been asking them now for years and years to test. We think that it makes more sense to start down here. Start with the known area of where the fire is in the neck and come out right about here safely, you know, an area in front as safe as you feel like you can get close to it and dig a hole and test in here. And then start testing and then start moving north. So again, come over here, stop testing, stop stepping down, start testing in this area and start moving north. This area, you see the green line here? These little highlighted areas here, these are areas of radioactivity that they found in their recent study. These are the areas right here. The other thing I want you to see when you're looking at this is notice how you can have an area of radioactivity that surrounds it, but you can have an empty area. You guys see that? Come over here and see this. It's almost like a leopard spot, isn't it? An area where there's nothing. That's right. That's why it's really important that when they test for this, we feel like they need to use a grid. They do this up in North County where Foos Rep is cleaning. They use a grid because you can't just, let's pick this area. You can't just take this area and step this way and say, oh, I didn't find anything, so we're good. Look down here. You can't do that. That method of testing for radioactive waste on this site, so you can't just come in this area and say, oh, I'll test here. Oh, nothing's here. Okay, we're good. This is a clean area. No, it's not. Look at what's below it. You cannot. I'm sorry.
I have a question. At the last CAG meeting, I specifically asked the EPA about testing the ground that's burning and everything, and they said they will not do testing for that area because they are currently testing the air above that area and it's coming in fine. So the area that they're now saying is contaminated, do we know if they did their air testing on that area and how it came up?
So we don't. What we do know is that up here, so you see this area up here? I'm so sorry, I'm switching back and forth, and I know I shouldn't be sitting, but we're real tired today. There is surface area radioactivity in this, and we actually had a conversation too with the project manager. You guys may remember that HESTR released a report saying that there are radon fluxes, that there is an excess of radon leaving this site, and that they were concerned about workers. That is in these areas here of known surface level radioactivity. What we don't know is if they tested this area down here now that they're finding it. And we do understand that this area is not on the surface. This is under the ground. But still, so is the fire. So it's a problem. And I know a lot of people have asked the question, because again, here's the neck and here's where the fire is, all below here. How do we know it's not down here? We're going to get into some more historical images. Um,
One more question on that last slide.
yeah, let me go back.
Where's the border between the two landfills?
She asked, where's the border between the two landfills? It's an invisible border right here. This narrow area, see how it's narrow? We call this the neck area. And if you guys can kind of memorize it, see how there's kind of a triangle that juts out? Be looking for that on these maps. That'll help you guys make sense of the maps that I'm about to show you. But this area right here, known as the neck, separates the south quarry, which is the Bridgeton Landfill, from the north quarry. And then when you hear West Lake Landfill, whenever anybody says West Lake Landfill, they're indicating this up here. So our question, and I think Ed, I think you may have posed this question, was now that we have radiological material even further down into the north quarry here, is this going to be considered West Lake Landfill or is this considered Bridgeton Landfill? Because to date, everything radioactive on this site is known as West Lake. Anything else is known as Bridgeton. Well, now we have radioactive material in the Bridgeton landfill. Are they going to expand that territory and then call it West Lake now? It's a good question, and it's not one that we know the answer to.
They don't want to test it because they know they'll find it.
Well, and the thing is they'll never be able to convince people that it's not there if they don't test it. So, I mean, and that's where we stand. Look here, what I want to show you here. Have you guys heard of the barrier? This is the barrier. This is where they wanted to put the barrier. You see that? This is where Republic wanted to put the barrier. See it? We're now in an area where we have radiation outside of the area that they wanted to build the barrier in, okay? This is a much shallow area. This is 50 to 60 feet deep. You start coming into here and you're getting to 250 foot deep, okay? So, this is why to date we don't have a location for the barrier, and this is why we continue to press EPA. EPA is insistent they want a barrier. Where are you going to put this barrier? Where are you going to put it now that you've found radioactive material off into a deeper area? You guys okay? Can we go forward? Okay, if you need to go back, let me know. Okay, so this is another historical photo. The neck and the known rim. This is the distance again, okay? See that over here. Debbie did this, by the way, and it's phenomenal. West Lake Rim, purple. So again, this is the area they told us it was at. And I should say, they did more than tell, they swore to us. They promised us that that was the extent. And every single time, you can see how the border got extended. Look at how it got extended off-site here. Can you guys see that? Can you guys see that? How it actually got extended to the north too? See that? And then it got extended again. Here's where they wanted to build the barrier. And now we're down, see how we're down in this area now? So remember the triangle area. This is part of the triangle area that I was telling you guys about. I'm gonna go to the next. What we wanna show you is, this is another aerial photo. I don't know how many of you guys realize this or not, but there was a time when, with known radioactive waste in this area, they opened it up and allowed more garbage. The state of Missouri did. In an area that we now know has radioactive material in it. Here, this stuff on the ground here, this is all the garbage. There was a pond up here. Again, to give you an idea, that's where they wanted to build the barrier. This is the area here. You guys can see it, 2004. So we have a big issue with this. The ground has since been moved quite a bit and disturbed. Remember, this radioactive waste was dumped in 1973. Again, this is 2004. People have messed with this site. Okay, there's it without the barrier. You can kind of see a pond area there. Again, this is the area, that's the extent of where EPA just tested. They haven't tested in this area. Look over here, look at the pond. So the pond area is sitting just outside of the area that they have tested in, and they won't go further south. Here's the garbage. See the garbage all mounded up? Can you guys see it on this side for those? You can see that this is the line here. Again, this is as far south as EPA is tested. Here's the area of known rim that they just found. Look at the pond. We're going to go into why this is important. Okay, again, just to show you the new area that it was found in. Pond. Look what happened in 2007. The pond was dug out. The area was messed with. Look at all this. So I'm going to go back one slide. I'm going to show you what it used to look like, okay? See what it used to look like in 2004? Look at the area up here. Look at the area of radioactive waste up here too, okay? Now I'm gonna jump forward. Look at that. In 2007. So this area, again, areas of radioactive waste on this site have been messed with. They have been manipulated. And back when this was done in 2007, I'm going to go back. I apologize. If this is confusing, please let me know. I'm doing the best I can. Back in 2007, it was this area. They still were thinking that it was only in that area. Now that they know that it's all over in this area, look what they allowed to happen. This was all filled in. Dirt was moved around. There's a better picture of the landfill and the extended area down here. So down towards the bottom here, down towards the bottom down here is where the fire is. I want to talk a little bit about this real quick. Republic Services loses appeal, must build barrier at West Lake Landfill. So A.G. Coster announces dismissal of Republic Services appeal over installing heat extraction cooling loops at the Bridgeton Landfill. The Department of Natural Resources ordered Bridgeton Landfill on December 4th to initiate installation of the heat extraction barrier system within 14 days of receipt of the letter. Republic refused. This isn't our words, this is the state of Missouri's words. Republic refused and appealed the order to the Administrative Hearing Commission, which subsequently dismissed the appeal. So I hear a lot of people, I've heard be it elected officials and just ordinary people in the state say, well, it's okay because the state of Missouri is suing. Guys, they're still misbehaving even though there's litigation going on. You are going to have to watch this company for the duration of this fire, which is estimated for the next 8 to 10 years. Even with the full weight and the top attorney in the state of Missouri chasing after them, they are still refusing to do the right thing. This was a stall tactic, nothing more. With the previous slides, you guys understand now why we really need these cooling loops. The state of Missouri is calling for them in order to hold the fire back long enough for EPA to get their stuff together and build some sort of barrier. EPA announced its plan to clean radioactive waste found on private property after Missouri Attorney General testing finds the contamination, which EPA knew of since 1990. That's a run-on sentence, but you guys get the drift. We're going to go into some slides now. How many of you guys have attended previous meetings and know that we've shown the slides that show that this has been off-site and that they knew it was off-site? Do you guys remember that? This might be a little redundant, but I think you'll actually find these historical photos interesting. There needs to be more investigation done of even just the off-site contamination. And yes, they knew it was there. When they got this site as a Superfund site in 1990, EPA was made aware that this contamination was off-site. We have the documents, Debbie cited them at the end, and they are stamped Superfund. Here's why this is an issue. This is a really cool old historic. Do we have anybody here that grew up in Bridgeton that remembers this site? Okay, well, so here is St. Charles Rock Road. This is actually the old Rock Road. I don't mean to shoot you in the eye. And this is actually Creve Coeur Creek over here. So coming off to this side, this is St. Charles Rock Road, okay? Tossig Road would be somewhere over here.
More down.
And then this is the old Rock Road, okay? And then right here was a creek. This was Creve Coeur Creek. This area right here, this is an area where radioactive waste was dumped in 1973 illegally and sat on the surface. Right away, it should catch you guys' attention. Look at this. Look at this. You see that? Now it was just sitting on the surface. You can see that if we want to talk about the Achilles heel at this site, it's going to be the water. It's going to be the rainwater. It rained on this site and it found its way off into the creek. The Ford property, everybody says, how did the Ford property get contaminated? You're looking at it. This right here is the Ford Crossroads property, and down here. Do you guys see this area right here? So when it would rain, the berm collapsed and allowed the particulates to go with the water onto this property right here. And you can actually see the lines where it leads straight into the creek, which then goes into the Missouri River, okay? This used to be a farmer's field, by the way. They grew soybeans on this field, okay? Debbie, when is this photo?
1990.
1990? Okay. Look what's happened since 1990. Can you guys see that? So again, in 1990, we have a document. We're going to put it up at the end of this. EPA knew that is where the failure occurred. That's how this property became contaminated. They never cleaned it. Look what they allowed to be developed. You see that? That was all built on top of what used to be a former farmer's field. There was testing done. They knew it was off-site, but it was built anyway. This is AAA trailer, okay? You see how their trailers are parked on the back lot? This is just gravel here. There's trailers parked on the back lot. This is gravel. This area was a known area that was contaminated. There was no fence. They had radioactive signs up. That was the institutional controls that EPA put in place. These signs that said radioactive, don't get armed. I'll show you what happened next. See that? Was that, then went to that. You guys see that?
Is this finished village?
No, this is still the trailer. So what happened is they wanted to expand their parking lot. So they came in. Imagine what it looks like when it snows and they plow a parking lot. That's what they did. They came in and graded it and plowed it and pushed it. They pushed the soil up onto this area back here. The radioactive soil. They went around the radiation signs. They went around them. The trailer company did, and put it here. Put it probably right about here is where they're describing the berm. Right about here. So then, when they did that, they sprinkled more gravel down and then moved their trucks. All of this happened under EPA's nose and under, wasn't Republic back then, but the owner of the landfill. So they did this without asking permission. We have the documents if you want to see us afterwards. We have the back and forth that occurred when EPA finally realized this had happened. Oh no, you touched our Superfund site, what'd you do with the dirt, etc. And I think that this is a really good example of how institutional controls fail at sites. You know, how a sign can be ignored. So there you have it. They did. They created a berm right here. And you can kind of see it. It's starting to be overgrown. And here's the area, they call this the buffer zone. It's called the buffer zone now in EPA documents. You can kind of see it right here. See it? It's kind of a cleared off area, but it's starting to be overgrown. So when they moved the dirt, it was just sitting there in a berm, like you would expect if you plow snow. You know how you have those banks in a parking lot. EPA came back in and looked at it, took measurements. The owner of the company, so Paul Rosasco with EMSI, came back and said, this radioactive dirt poses a risk to this community because it's just sitting there out in the open. You know, rain, water, wind, they actually say this, we need EPA to give us permission to remove this dirt, to take care of it. I mean, this is a responsible party asking EPA for permission to take care of this because they think it poses a risk to the community. We have this document as well. EPA never responded and gave them permission. So eventually, after many years, it was covered in dirt and overgrowth and grass, and to our knowledge, it's still there today. Ed did ask EPA at a recent meeting we had with the project manager, Ed Smith did ask them, you know, why didn't you let them? And the answer they gave was, we don't know why, but we're trying to find out. We're trying to find out why permission was never given to clean up that, which obviously they acknowledge as a potential risk. Here's some more historical photographs, just kind of, again, showing the erosion patterns, the naturally occurring erosion patterns of where the water goes when it hits the site and how it leaves. Thank you, Debbie. This was really cool, by the way. Here's a photo. I know, she worked really hard on this, you guys. This is a really cool photo recently. I can't read the date at the bottom. 2014. There we go. This is a 2014, and you can see the trucks are still parked there. And you can see that the little buffer zone area here is overgrown. But look at this canal here, you guys, which has never been tested. Okay, now I'm going to go back one last time and then I'll leave it. You see that going straight into what was then the canal. See it? It was always going this direction. They had got to test these canals. That's just logic. That's just logic. Okay. These are some more of the documents from 1991, engineering support. Soil piles on the Ford property and Crossroads property, 99. Talks about excavation was performed despite signage warning of the presence of radioactive contamination. Listen to this. Numerous sets of tire tracks were also observed on the excavated property, including tracks indicating that vehicles had been driven directly past a radioactive contamination warning sign. You know, increased the potential for windblown particles to exit the property, and the mounted material is subject to erosion potential due to runoff. Those are the piles that they pushed back up that they're talking about. Again, this is EPA. They know this stuff. We're not telling them anything at these meetings that they don't know. Listen, this based on the potential for wind or water participation, I can't talk tonight, sorry, runoff-induced erosion, a time-critical removal action to retrieve and relocate the soil piles to prevent potential off-site transport. EPA never gave them permission. It's still there, you guys. It's still there. So that brings us to the EPA facilitators meeting. How many of you guys went to that meeting? Ed went. Okay, well, we did. Oh, you protested. Oh, Byron said they said something. You know, we're going to talk about that. So, Byron, you were around when they did that, right? The 2008 record of decision.
In 1973, I was in the landfill.
Oh, he was in the landfill in 1973. Here's the issue. So, how many of you guys knew that they came up with a record of decision at this site in 2008 just to cap the waste, put clay over it, and leave it there? You guys understand that? So what you don't know, or maybe you do, is that people like Byron and Kay Dry protested that. A lot of public wrote letters and said, we have a problem with this, we don't like this solution, and the solution was expensive, so it went to what's called a National Remedy and Review Board. The National Remedy and Review Board is EPA's board. It's their own board that they use to critique and look over and review decisions made at Superfund sites.
Almost like going to the Supreme Court.
Right. It's kind of like he says, kind of like the Supreme Court within EPA. That's true. Not all Superfund sites, when they get a remedy, have to go through that. Some things can trigger it, but ours did. Plenty have, though. In the past, though, this Remedy and Review Board has always been open. So it's a tool that EPA uses to actually hold itself accountable, but to review to make sure that it's the best decision for the site and that, you know, there wasn't shoddy science and that everything was done and that is, you know, the safest solution. Other sites get to see that. It's an open process. It's a process where you can FOIA the information. You get to actually see what these board members, what their questions and critiques were about the decision and any issues they had. For whatever reason, ours was closed. When I say closed, I mean it's practically classified, meaning you can't even FOIA it. To our knowledge, ours is the only site that has ever gone to the Remedy and Review Board and it's ever been closed to the public. Okay, so again, this is EPA's own critique about their record of decision. And the reason we didn't attend this meeting is because we did not feel that it was transparent. You cannot have a discussion about the 2008 record of decision with people if you're not willing to release your own agency's critique of what they found wrong with it. Yes?
I just wanted to say that was brought up on Monday, and their response was that it was not an official meeting, and that's why we didn't document.
They're saying it was just a letter.
Yeah, it was only like, it was just a spur of the moment,
A consultation. So this was brought up on Monday. EPA has said on Monday, which they've said at previous meetings that we've been at too, that this was just kind of a spur of the moment review board, and that they didn't actually write a critique, they wrote a letter. That's what they've said. We've said, okay, fine, can we see the letter? They will not let us see it. So we know that a letter was written, we know that it had critiques in it.
You know, they had a meeting.
And they had quite a few
and they talked
meetings.
to each other at those meetings.
Right.
And there was a record within the meeting, and they don't want
Right. This is EPA hosting several meetings discussing this, and none of that was made available. Yes.
And it was obviously official enough that it compelled opening up the investigation again and doing the whole supplemental studies, all the supplemental studies
That's
we're
right.
doing now. So for an unofficial meeting, a spur of the moment, it sure carried a lot of weight.
Right, what he's saying is for their unofficial meeting, it opened up the investigation. We now have to have a supplemental feasibility study. A lot of the work going on right now is because of that. Again, all we're asking is, if we're going to be transparent, let's be transparent. Let's see what it is that your agency found wrong with your record of decision. Let's see what your recommendations were at the site. Open it up and let us see that, and then let us determine, if we, how do we know that they're even following their own recommendations if they won't let us know what their recommendations were? It's a very frustrating thing. It should be mentioned that State Representative Bill Otto has asked them as well. Ed has asked, a lot of people have tried to FOIA this information, Freedom of Information Act it, and we're told it's not available, that we can't request it. And I think that's ridiculous. So the other thing that we have a problem with this meeting, we were called by their PR people, EPA's PR people, letting us know that these meetings would start taking place and that they would start having stakeholders at these meetings. So what would happen is EPA would choose the stakeholders, and then one person representing each of those stakeholders would be allowed to attend this meeting. And that would take the place, that would fulfill EPA's legal requirement to host a public meeting.
One person would get a seat at the table.
Right.
Everybody was invited to attend.
So one person gets a seat at the table and can talk. The other thing is that's still ongoing. State Representative Bill Otto, we've asked, how do you choose? How does EPA choose who the stakeholders are? My neighbor's retiring. He has a different stake in this than I do. Does he want to retire in this community? I don't own a business in the community. I can't go and represent somebody, that person is, I think that for Karen and I, we believe that that's not transparent, that all of you, and frankly, anyone that lives in St. Louis and drinks the water should be considered a stakeholder. Thanks, Megan, at this site. So let it be said that we're asking for all of that to take place, and we'll see ongoing. But the very least that they owe us, I think, is, again, their own agency's critique.
Brad, they had said on record that everyone's a stakeholder at that meeting.
Well, it's changed. Let's just say it's changed, because it was in the beginning that you had to receive a formal letter, and then we threw a fit about it. So I should say that. They have caved a little. We did win that battle. But in the beginning, it was, you had to receive a letter. And actually, I got a letter, but Karen didn't. She's kind of brokenhearted about that a little bit. She didn't get picked to sit at the table. They didn't want me.
But the responsible parties were at that meeting, right?
Yes and no. There's
stakeholders at the table, but they don't
right.
go to the citizens advisory.
There's always lawyers in the room.
There are always lawyers in the room, even tonight. They just are. It's what it is. I want to bring up Kristen right now. I want to say something before Kristen gets up. When we met with CEQ and when we met with Gina McCarthy, these maps that we showed you guys, we could talk about dirt and soil with them. We didn't have to do that with Gina. She knew. We walked right in and said, you've made mistakes, and she nodded. She acknowledged. They know this, you guys. What gets these people moving, what makes a difference, what gets legislation introduced, what gets Frank Pallone out of the way is this kind of stuff. It's the human aspect. I live next to this site, and I can't go to Target because I'm afraid I'm gonna walk out. I can't have my grandkids over and hunt Easter eggs with them anymore. That is the kind of story that moves people. And so that is something that Kristen is talking about, and it's not even about illnesses, guys. It goes even deeper than that. It goes into the emotional. I live in St. Louis, I live next to this site, and I'm afraid of what's gonna happen to me in 10 years from breathing this in. Or, I don't live there, but I have family that lives there, and it worries me, and I worry about them. Those kinds of stories matter, and the faces that go with them. We could go in front of every elected official and show maps and stuff. They already get it, they know it. Your stories are what matter, and that's where we see movement on this issue. Kristen, you wanna come up?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dawn. So just to go back to what she was saying, that's exactly what this project is to tell your stories, to put the human face to the suffering, to the stress, to the worry. I joined the Facebook page in 2013, and I met so many people that had been affected by this landfill. We always talked about the science, we talked about the history, but no one was telling the human side of it. So I decided to pick up my camera and start taking the photos. Since I just started this in August, since then the page is almost up to 1,300 likes. It's making movement, people are seeing it, people are hearing your stories, and it's important because if you don't share your story, then you're just a statistic. I think it's fair because so many brave people in this room tonight actually have shared their story with me. I will share my story with you. In 2012, this was pretty much within an 11-month period. I was told that I had a tumor on my adrenal gland. I had a total hysterectomy. I had thyroid cancer, and then after the thyroid was removed, they found a tumor on my remaining adrenal gland and a lesion in my liver. So not only am I the photographer and the creator, but I am one of you. I grew up around here. I've lived here my whole life. I was a Pattonville school student. This affects us all. And if you have the courage enough and would like to share your story, please contact me. You can do it through the Facebook page. I actually have cards out at my trifold. You can see some of the stuff that we have done already. Please feel free to email me. Thank you.
Well, we need a call to action, and maybe we need your opinion. What might that be? Should we continue to call Gina McCarthy? Should we continue to call Congressman Pallone? Should we start calling Congressman Clay and Congressman Wagner's office again? Ed?
I would like to add one. You could start calling the majority leader of the Missouri Senate and ask why Senator Chappelle Nadal's bill to create a relocation program hasn't been heard on the floor of the Senate, even though it passed out of committee by a 10-to-1 vote on bipartisan vote.
And that bill's been modified to just be Spanish Village too, so that bill has gone through significant revisions. Okay.
So contact the Senate leadership, they're the ones holding it up.
Okay.
We should have all of those numbers on our website and Facebook page. We could probably regenerate those so they're back up at the top of the page.
We're at an impasse, you guys. We've got legislation that's sitting there, we need to move it. If you can't do anything else, then just pray. Pray for Frank Pallone to move out of the way.
I don't live in the area, but I grew up in North County and I work right off of the Merced Expressway, right next to one of the towns. And it's horrible over there to work there. People at my job have headaches, nausea. I can only imagine what it's like for you all that live over here. I mean, I really think we need to make flyers, and I really think that a lot of people at the business over there are just blaming on trash. Before I was a nurse, I worked at Dave & Buster's, and I thought it was trash. I thought, I don't think people know.
I would agree.
And
with
I
that.
agree, we do need to get a hold of the elected officials, but you guys had a lot of coverage before. That's actually how I found out about it. And I just think that we just need to protest. I mean,
Yeah.
I think honestly that's the only time I think it's done.
When you protest, I think that's a good point. We still have a lot of outreach. First of all, it's good to see a worker, because I want you to know that even though a lot of us live here, we worry about you guys, that we do think about you guys, and we do realize that guys may live in a different area, but you're still coming in, and that's hard because a lot of the people I think in this area know, but somebody coming in from anywhere else, they may not know.
Well, yeah, I mean, my work every day. It's a nice day, they want to open the door, let fresh air in, and it's, it's hard not to think how much we're being exposed right there, a half a mile away, or the guys cutting the grass, or and a few years ago there was a bunch of dead fish in the canals, and I'm like.
Well, and you mentioned the headache and the bloody noses. I don't think, maybe a lot of you do understand this, but you can go right now on the Department of Health and Senior Services website where they talk about the odor, and they acknowledge, they say exposure to the odor can cause, and they go through it. headache, bloody noses, breathing issues in sensitive individuals. I mean, there's no secret that this can happen. But then what they say is, well, but once you remove yourself from the odor, that goes away. How do you remove yourself from the odor if you're working someplace 8 hours a day?
Well, and for you guys who live around here, I mean,
Right.
what do? You leave your house? Do you file bankruptcy? I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real problem. That's one of the reasons why we're pushing for a buyout for the closest affected area. Really, I mean, really the main portion of this buyout is because of the fire and these emissions and the odor. You know, the radioactive waste and all that, that's still an issue. But regardless of that, these people live next to this odor and these emissions 24/7.
Yeah, and how do you shelter in place when the odor's in your house?
Exactly.
So, does anybody else have any questions? Yes.
You told me that I should call Rick Kessler.
Yeah. She called Rick Kessler. Did he respond?
Well, I got an answer.
Okay. He. So, Rick Kessler is the minority staffer for the Energy and Commerce Committee, which is the committee that our bill is stuck in. So as the minority staffer, he speaks with Pallone and he advises Pallone. Pallone is the ranking minority member elected official on that committee. So basically it's Rick Kessler and Frank Pallone, Rick reaching into his ear. And as of today, I did speak with Congresswoman Ann Wagner's office. We spoke yesterday with Lois Gibbs. Rick is radio silence. Rick Kessler is no longer returning anybody's phone call. He's no longer commenting. And I said, Eric Russ from Ann Wagner's office in DC, I said, why do you think that is? And he said, they're laying low, they're hunkering down. It is not for lack of Pallone getting pressure. Pallone has received plenty of pressure and phone calls. It's just a matter of, I don't know what the one thing is going to be to get him out of the way. Really, that is why one of the suggestions we have is should we call our Democratic elected officials? This is a Democrat standing in the way of this bill. Should we call them and ask them what they're doing to reach out to Frank Pallone? What did their conversations with him look like? That's one of our suggestions. It couldn't hurt at least. I know he's telling everybody a different story, but we need to be able to keep track of what he's telling people. If he has a legitimate issue with this bill, give us the opportunity to speak with him and work it through. So, does anybody else have any questions? Anything else?
In 1982, there were a group of Japanese Buddhist monks that marched from the arch out to the slab site and prayed there. Because the waste, of course, came from Hiroshima. Now, the U.S. government is considering building new nuclear weapons. They still have not cleaned up the very first nuclear waste in the world.
He said that in 1982, a group of Japanese Buddhist monks marched from the arch to the St. Louis airport site where some of this radioactive waste, where West Lake came from, was stored in protest of the leftover waste from the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. So, and he said now it's still sitting there and they're wanting to make more of it, and nobody's talking about West Lake, what's been sitting there now for 40 years.
Maybe we should do the reverse and march from West Lake to the airport side to the arch, or something like that.
I don't know, but you know what?
Block traffic somewhere.
I made a comment on a page one night to someone that works in the area too, and told her that where I live in O'Fallon, there's the Stop Heroin marches every Saturday morning,
yeah.
the neon shirts, and they're noticed. I mean,
Right.
maybe that's something that we need to do to get it out.
That's a thought. That's a really good thought. Harvey?
I have a suggestion. The Democratic whip of the House of Representatives is Steny Hoyer.
What's his name? Steny Hoyer?
Steny Hoyer.
Hoyer?
Yeah, who's actually a very, very powerful legislator. It may make some sense to call him
Steny Hoyer, okay, that's a good suggestion, and we can put his number up. I mean, I think we'll call anybody. We'll go where we need to, but we just need to unstick this bill right now. We really have to do what we can. So, you're next.
Was there any discussion of
She asked if there was any discussion with Ann Wagner's office today about a hearing. Yes, a little bit. They don't want a hearing. They don't want one. They think that, again, they're saying that he says he wants a hearing, but our elected officials that introduced the bill do not want a hearing. They say that at a hearing, EPA will come out and swing, Republic will come out, and that all the things that are lurking, all the pressure lurking behind the scenes will be thrust forward. Now, I did say something interesting. He did say that a hearing on West Lake would generate media attention and more attention to the issue, but he said in terms of getting people to pass it in the House, that might not be the best thing. And of course, he knows that we'll take whatever we get, you know. That's right, everybody else. Right, Pallone is the only one, you guys. Every Republican and Democrat on that committee is fine with this bill. Everyone on the Senate side is fine. They need a unanimous vote to pass it on suspension. Pallone is the only one. She asked if we could go around him and the requirement. They're looking into it, is what they're telling us. If any of you have any experience dealing with policy or anything like that, your help is most wanted right now more than ever. Yeah. Let me go to John first, and then I'll go to you.
Why don't you mail him some dirt?
That would be considered an act of terrorism, unfortunately.
I'm telling you, it's clean. Take some grass, take some dirt, put a little bit of, identify on it, dirt.
We met, for what it's worth, we met with his staff when we were in DC the last time, and they told us that they did not have enough information on the bill, that they were going to they promised us they'd do their due diligence. Yeah, they also promised that and I know Ed's made phone calls too that haven't been returned. I mean, there's a real lack of follow-up on their end, not on ours, for what it's worth. So, Linda.
Yeah, how about, where does he go to hang out? A certain country club, or does he go to a certain place?
New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, what is some place where you could embarrass him at home?
I don't know. I mean, that's...
really?
Or, start sending in pictures if your kids have bloody noses. I don't know. I have to tell you, we are doing everything we can, and he does have our book. We dropped off a book with pictures of the sick kids and the pictures of the fire and the smoke. Yes?
My dad came up with a good idea, so we should get a trailer, put some dirt in it, and drive it to his front yard. Back to until each state as you go through.
In New Jersey. I mean, that's what we're up against. I don't know. I mean, this is...
Let us leave St. Louis, but imagine the attention it would get. How would we get out of the attention you'd get would be huge.
You have to, it'd be great to just get a straight answer out of this guy at this point. I would just... Well, he may be getting paid off. He won't give anybody a straight answer, not even from his own party at this point.
He said he'll put some nuclear signs up and stuff, so it draws a lot of attention.
Kristen.
I noticed that he gets a lot of campaign contributions from medical professionals. If maybe we could get some medical professionals from the area to reach out to those people.
That's a good idea. He said he gets a lot of political campaign money from medical professionals in the area. That's a thought. I mean, anything could work. Donna, did you have a question?
Do they have any unique connections there, guys, that could pull up on something in front of his house with big pictures of children all over it, or?
The Teamsters have made their calls. The Franciscan Sisters have made their phone calls.
Does he have local connections to act on our behalf there?
We can ask. I don't.
Everyone who knows anyone
in New Jersey,
or think of maybe we should try and reach out to the Sierra Club and the Myers.
And that's something that we haven't done, Byron. So that's a good idea. To tweet him. The other thing, Rabbi Talby has reached out to some of the Reformed Jewish congregation members in New Jersey. They've been making phone calls to Frank Pallone. I mean, these kinds of things, we need to be thinking about people that we know in New Jersey, even if it's a distant relative or whatnot, who may have a connection that can call. Because that's what he's looking for, is someone from his own state to give him a hard time.
This was asking about the law. I know, we're being funny about sending dirt up there and all that. I mean, he'd be arrested for that. But the law, how long can he let that sit on his desk before he moves it? I mean, it can't sit there.
Yeah, it can sit there indefinitely. That is where bills go to die in committee. That's where bills die.
So he doesn't have to clean it off his desk and say no or yes on it? It can just sit there forever?
Yep, he doesn't have to do anything with
What's
it.
wrong with that system?
Yeah, right, what's
That
wrong
one
with
person.
That's the problem.
I didn't know. I thought you had a deadline.
No.
Well, he wants to force it into hearing.
Byron?
Yes, there is a parliamentary procedure called a discharge petition, which would force it out of committee.
How do we get that going, Byron?
Okay.
Does that mean you're going to work on that?
Yes.
Okay, Byron's going to work on a discharge petition. Woo! He said there is a petition that will get it out of committee.
I remember there was something from social studies when I was young. that a bill can go to die, but there was a law, and I didn't know. That's why I would ask a politician.
I don't think there's a lie, but I think
That
he's
there was
saying there is a
something that we
procedure.
could do. I'm not saying it'll work, but I thought there was something we could do, like legally.
And from what I understand, if you imply that a discharge petition action is going to take place, it can be embarrassing to the office that's holding the bill down.
Well, then that's what we need, is a little bit of public embarrassment. Get them out of the way, so.
All right, we're going to go over our goals, just in case you don't remember them. We're asking for an immediate relocation assistance for homeowners that want to move and are located within 1 mile of the West Lake Landfill fence line, paid for by the landfill owner Republic Services. 2, a fair market value assurance for homeowners living within 5 miles of the West Lake Landfill for a minimum of 5 years after fair value assurance is initiated. And 3, put the Army Corps of Engineers squeeze rack in charge, because it will remove the significant influence that financially responsible parties currently enjoy while it is an EPA Superfund site. The Corps of Engineers is the most qualified government agency to provide a permanent radioactive wastes. Any questions on the goals? Good.
On the second one, the fair market value, you have to sell the property. That means there has to be a buyer. And like off of Harmony Lane, I hear the people in the building that's on can't find buyers.
The buyer could be Republic Services or the EPA. They maintain the homes until the smoldering fire goes out, and then they can resell them when it's okay to live there.
Well, they don't think there's anything wrong, so they put it.
I know, it's frustrating. And
This has happened in other places.
it has.
Notably Love Canal. And the EPA could, right now, today, decide to do that.
Right, it could happen.
Yeah.
Guys, go, if you guys want to look up, we'll have it on the Facebook page, if you want to look up Superfund law and what that looks like, it's section 101.24. 101.24, CERCLA, all you have to look up, Google it, and it'll pop up with all the ways they can relocate, what triggers the relocation, what relocations they've done in the past, what that looks like, and that should answer a lot of your questions. We had to remind Gina of
Did you discuss
that.
any of that with Gina McCarthy when you were there, those exact, like?
Oh, we did. You're going to laugh at this one. She tried to tell me, she said, it's not, do we want to remove those people? It's, can we do it under the law? And I said, section 101.24. She can't. We already qualify.
We were both saying it at the same time.
We said, well, she knows that. She just doesn't expect us to do that. That's why she didn't want Ed in the room. Right.
Did she respond at all, you saying that?
She just laughed and wrote it down. She knows.
Oh, she just thought you were.
If there is a threat of a release at a Superfund site, it can trigger a relocation of residents living next to it. I said, we've already had a release. We had a brush fire and a well fire. We already had it. And we have the threat of one. If we didn't have the threat of one, then we wouldn't have an emergency plan, and all of our school districts wouldn't have sent home letters telling us what they're going to do with our kids in the event of an emergency.
And if there is no immediate date for this to end.
That's
So-
right.
It's probably why they won't test the dirt that's currently burning, because if they do, they admit that there is an issue right now, right here now, and it has been for the last 5 years.
I think in answer to that, though, I have an idea, and I was thinking about this, and I know where's Harvey, he's gonna cringe, you're gonna cringe. You know, those wells, they're constantly putting out alerts that those wells are breaking and they're having to dig new ones. Why can't they be forced under Coster's law to cough up the dirt when they dig a new well? What's wrong with that? I'm just saying, that's a state of Missouri issue. Well, well, he said they have liners, but they're putting in a new row. They just put in 15 new gas extraction wells. So those are all being dug. I mean, I see no reason why when they're digging them, they can't just hand the dirt over. So anyway,
Okay.
all right, you ready to go?
Anything else?
Thank you.
Anybody else? We have, oh, okay. Don't forget the next meeting, May 19th, 6:30, right here.
We stopped calling the state folks for a while. Should we call Coster's office and tell them that we don't want testing?
I see no reason why not to call Coster. I see no reason. I think it's a great idea. Does anybody else? Yeah, Justin.
I just wanted to say something. I live in North County, and
Hang on, Justin's talking.
I feel like this issue affects all of us. May 6th, 7th, and 8th is the Florissant Via of Flowers. There is a car show. There is a parade. That is an opportunity for all of us to get together, to be around people that bring their entire family, because children are absolutely affected. We could have signs. We could stand outside in the street. At the front, there's 2 entrances that I know of to get onto the fairgrounds. I own a salon on St. Francis, so we could use that as a setup area. But if we want to get the word out about Westlake and about the issues in St. Louis, we have captive audience and people that are coming in from out of state that used to live here to go to this festival.
That's a good idea. I'm from North County too.
So I just want to throw that out there. We've got stuff in the works.
And keep in mind, they hold this fair on property that's been flooded by cold weather.
Yep.
And they held it there for a
What was the dates for that again?
May 6th, 7th, and 8th. There's 3 days. It's all day. It's all day captive audience. And like she said, the fairground sits on property that has Coldwater Creek riding along it.
And it's the people that are coming back into town too.
Correct.
Because it's tradition to
So
go to
people
Valley
that don't
Flowers.
know, we have an audience that can hear.
Okay.
I do think we have that information up on the Westlake page, right? Is it
I
up?
think it might be pending.
Okay, well, if it is, we'll get it out there so that everybody can,
Is it still pending?
I thought it was out there, but
I thought it was
Okay.
Okay.
if not, we'll get it out there.
I just want to clarify why Dawn said I was going to cringe, so you don't get the wrong impression. Oh, I cringed big time. It's a big issue for me, for our office. We had suggested to DNR in the past, when they were putting the line of temperature probes right above the net, that they capture that soil. DNR thought it was such a great idea that they went to Republic Services, who refused to give them the soil. DNR then went to the Attorney General's office to compel Republic Services to give them the soil, which they again refused to do. And by the time it was all resolved through all the legal stuff, the soil had disappeared. So that's the cringe, is it only makes sense that they would be anxious to show that there's nothing, an immediate threat. But it didn't happen.
And then it opens the question as to what did they do with the potentially radioactive contaminated soil? What did they do with it?
Magic soil, magic beds.
Yeah, I did. Somebody
All right.